Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. I'm Brian Jones, and I'm a trainer in heartfulness, and this is Discover a New You, which is what we're all trying to do. So I know I'm always trying to discover a new me, right? Every day, it's got to be a new me, right? So anyway, I'm going to let people start to join in. I see some people already tuning in on either Facebook or YouTube. So I'd like to welcome you, and I want to also invite you to please, put something in the chat. Give your name, say hello, say where you're from too. That's always fun to have. So glad to have you here. Today, I'm going to take up a topic as I usually do. I think this one is called Origins to Destination. Ooh, sounds like a deep topic, and it probably will be. But we'll get into that in a minute. So let me just see who's tuning in here today. Mahima, all right. Welcome back. Harita, Anuruddha, Michael from Washington, UK. Thank you. Great. So glad you're all here, and I see a bunch more people joining in now. So that's great. Wonderful. All right. I wanted to play you. I wanted to play you a video today, and I've not tested this. So in other words, I kind of have it up and ready to play, but I've not tested whether or not the sound will come through, or whether you'll be able to hear it or see it or whatever. So this is going to be a little bit experimental, but I want to try and play this for you. Okay. So let's just see if I can do this. So let's try this. Okay. There it is. That's a start. And so I'm hoping that the sound comes through. So let me just go ahead and play it. And so be prepared for some audio to come through, for some music to come through. And here it is. All right. So I hope you all heard that and got to see that. Just one of my favorite. Oops. Sorry. Hold on a second. Oh, wait. Stop. Okay. So that is just one of my favorite videos that I've seen online. I just love that. And what I want to say about that is that, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, okay? No matter how much we can study, no matter how much we can practice our spiritual journey, okay, no matter how much we can read and how many books we can read, well, we just saw that That is heartfulness. That is heartfulness. So I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine the uh, the change that this guy is making in students' lives and how positive that is, and so uplifting. And he knew the separate dance for each of his students, how he would remember that. And it turns out he's very well known on YouTube as a math teacher. Okay, he teaches students. He's got hundreds of videos about mathematics and teaching students math. But anyway, I just love that so much. I just can't ever get enough of seeing that. It's so uplifting to me. So I hope that you all got to hear that and got to enjoy that. So I really wanted to start off like that. So, and the point here is this, and this is a point for us all to take. Okay, it only takes one person. It only takes one person to make a huge change in society. Huge change. And but what kind of person is that can make such a huge change? Right? I mean, this fellow is a lesson for me every single day. I mean, I would aspire to be like that, to be a change maker like that. Incredible. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. All right. I want to show you something else. I want to show you something else before we get into the topic. And look, I'm doing this because I want to inspire you. Okay, I want to inspire you because long time ago when I was at a gathering with Master Chariji, and this was in south of Atlanta. This was south of Atlanta in a Boy Scout camp. And, I was a very shy person growing up, and I was really shy of speaking in public, extremely shy of speaking in public. But I would force myself at the gatherings to stand up and, say a few things. And so at this gathering, I stood up and I somehow was really moved inside. I was probably a bit emotional. And I just had this overwhelming feeling. And I gave a talk about how important it was that, if we've received so much, that we can't go through life like putting a basket over our light, hiding the light, that we've got to take the basket off and we've got to shine our light around to everyone. And that was the talk I gave. And it was probably a talk for myself to learn that. So, I just can't say enough that there's nothing special about, expressing the amazing thing that we find here from our practice of heartfulness. It doesn't have to be done in a way that, we're trying to tell anybody or convince anybody. It's just that you express that joy in your life and people will feel it. So anyway, yeah. So I'm going to share another screen. So I want to show you something is that I've been writing on Quora, and many of you know that I have a Quora group that I meet with 4 times a week, actually. And I've been doing that for 7 years. And the reason I started that was because Daji had asked me to start writing on Quora. And I didn't really know what to do. I didn't do it at first. And then I started answering questions and answering more questions. And then I started doing it very diligently. I started writing on Quora every single day. And it just I didn't even think about it really. And probably after about 1.5 years, I saw something where you could go online and kind of get a feel for how many people you've reached. And it was like a huge amount of people that I was reaching. And I didn't even know that. I was totally naive and unaware of what was happening. That I was reaching, I was like the #1 writer for 4 years in a row in the categories of spirituality and meditation and enlightenment, all these things. I didn't even know this. So, and my point is this, is that, if I would have started out thinking, oh, I want to reach a million people, or I want to reach so many people, and I need to write so many answers, I mean, none of this would have happened. That would have been some kind of big, bloated idea of my own. But instead, all I did was just every day I felt, no, let me just answer some of these questions. And before long, it was so huge. And so my point, I want to share that with you all, just to so you know that you are so capable of making little efforts in life that, before you know it, they mount up and build up, and you look back and say, oh, wow, how did that indeed happen? So I just thought I'd share another thing with you today. Let me see if I can pull this up. Let me see where it is. Okay. So after 7 years of writing on Quora, I want to show you. So this is the people. This is the people I've reached. I mean, this map is directly from my website, and I just couldn't. When I first saw this, I just absolutely could not believe my eyes that so many people I've been able to connect with all over the world, and I didn't even realize this. You can see. I mean, look at all over the Middle East. I've reached people in Iran and Iraq and Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Egypt and so many places in Africa, China, even someone in Mongolia. Okay, so Papua New Guinea was a bit of a disappointment. Nobody from there, but anyway, this has been such an amazing adventure for me, and I'm just so grateful every day that my whole life, the joy that I receive in life is to share what I've received with whoever I can, who's ever looking for something, and just share my own story, And so I encourage you to do so. That's what I want to say today before we get started. So, all right. So for those more who have tuned in, that's Ellie, Rachita, Zilda, Harita, Sashi, Anuruddha, Veena, Lakshmi. Okay, great. Glad you're here. Now today, this past probably year and a half, I've been doing a lot of talking and sessions, a lot of thinking and pondering about the beginning of creation, the origin, what Babaji calls wonderfully, he calls it the stir. Science calls it the Big Bang, but Babaji calls it the stir. And he said that stir was the first thought, and he calls it the first mind of God. So how wondrous, okay, that if we just simply understand that this Big Bang was also a thought, it suddenly brings spirituality and science together in such a beautiful way. Because if you think about this, we are beings of thought and matter. We're beings of, and energy, of course. Matter is also energy that's become dense. So we are beings of thought plus matter. So when we think about this spiritual journey that we're on, our thought is still there, connected at what we call the source. And it's been connected since the beginning, since the origin, since the beginning of creation. And we are still connected with that. And this is how spiritual masters like Babaji, okay, is able to write books and talk about the beginning of creation and the powers that existed and everything. He could perceive that because he was able to bring his awareness to that point of time and perceive that and write about it. And we are all capable of that too, but this is what we're uncovering. Okay, it's not our objective, but as we evolve as human beings, we're going to be able to do many, many things that we can't even imagine now. So, so today I'm going to talk about what you've all know. You've heard about the 10 maxims, but this is going to be a little bit of a different spin because I want to come at this from what Babaji explains about Maxim 1. So I'm going to read Maxim 1, and then I'm going to read what he talks about. It's so scientific and so wonderful. Okay, a couple people popped up. Shobana and Aminder, welcome. All right, here's the Maxim 1. Rise before dawn. Offer your prayer and puja or meditation at a fixed hour, preferably before sunrise, sitting in one and the same pose. Have a separate place and seat for your practice. Purity of mind and body should be specially adhered to. Okay, now, why we need to have a specific time, that's one, and we have to have a specific place, okay, that we always go to, and a specific seat that we're sitting in, okay. The reason is that, and I think many of you have probably experienced this, have you ever, had something important to do in the morning? Well, it could have been as simple as getting up for work, but you set your alarm at a certain time, but inevitably you wake up, 30 seconds before the alarm goes off. And I think that's probably happened to most of you, right? What is that? Well, we have a body clock, and we're able to give our body clock suggestions. They have to be in a subtle kind of way. Even the very act of just setting the alarm, with maybe a deep inner intention without even thinking about it, that we know that we have to get up at a certain time. This sets our body clock. And so our body remembers that. This is the same principle at work that Babaji is talking about here, is that he's talking about when we rise before dawn, when we have a specific time, a specific place, a specific seat for our meditation practice. Even before we sit down, our body knows. Our body knows this. And we all can so easily go into meditation that our body actually starts to meditate even before we've sat down. So this is the reason behind this Maxim 1. But Babaji then gets very scientific about this. And this is what I want to read, and I'll talk about it a little bit. So here's what he says about Maxim 1. The fire of the divine, which has been burning since the beginning of time, has not yet cooled down. When the time of creation came, the latent thought came into action, and the subtlest particles got heated up. Thus, the preliminary covering set in from the very first day. Okay. So Babaji talks here about this latent thought that sprang up. And, to have a thought, there must be emotion attached to it. Anything we think is something, it's awareness in motion. Okay. So this is what he says here. He says that it came into action, and the subtlest particles got heated up. And because those subtle particles got heated up, that formed a sort of grossness, which was our first covering. Okay, that first covering, which created our first light body or energetic body, we could call it. So let me continue. By the effect of continuous heating, the particles began to come into motion, right? Its intensity went on increasing, adding veils after veils to it, veils after veils, covering after covering after covering. Okay, we originally existed as with no coverings, as pure, naked self, naked souls. in our original pure state. But as a result of this movement, this motion, and particles heating up, it started to form this density, which started to form coverings after coverings. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Grossness began to develop by the effect of the growing intensity of the vibrations. Okay, so as things came into motion, like sound waves, okay, when a sound is something that travels through the air, and that is a specific frequency. Right now, when I'm talking mostly at a specific frequency. But if I talk a little bit higher, it's at a higher frequency. If I talk lower, it's at a lower frequency. So there's all kinds of frequencies. So this is what Babaji is alluding to at the beginning of creation. Grossness began to develop by the effect of the growing intensities of the vibrations. Wow. The action of every particle started and went on multiplying till the reality was completely wrapped up within, like a silkworm in the cocoon. In other words, only the white shell of the egg remained open to view, while the reality within was lost to sight. So these coverings became so dense that the reality got completely covered up. Now he says, co-relationship began to spring up. Now, okay, this is a very important line. Because of these coverings and because the reality got covered up, we as original souls, or jiva, right? We began to perceive ourselves as being separate because we had these coverings. And how we began to perceive ourselves as separate is because we're perceived other beings similar to ourselves as existing. So this formed the idea of co-relationship. We're in relationship with, that which was around us. So, hard to say how many of these initial souls or jiva came into existence at this time. But co-relationship sprang up, and because of that, it started to solidify even more, and we developed a more hardened identity that we associate with. And now we're just, these beings of dense matter. Well, we're not. We're not really, but we've come into this dense form, and the reality is covered up within. And so our thought, which is in motion from the original stir, right? We're thinking beings. So we're a reflection of that original moment of creation. The heat which existed on the first day manifested itself in man. And gradually it went on developing, assuming the form of organic growth, physical growth. Every particle got affected thereby, absorbing its due share of it. A material tinge was thus introduced into it, and it remained subject to the influence of that which it was a part of. So this materiality, this material tinge, see, we associated with it so much and we became subjected to the effects of matter, the effects of this organic matter. And this is why we can say that the mind and the brain, okay, the brain is the physical organ, but the mind is like its field, but they're completely interconnected with each other. Though consciousness, okay, is not wed to the brain, it is completely enmeshed with this physical form. And this is what Babaji is talking about here. Okay. The bigger layer previously formed by the heat maintained its connection with it. We maintained our connection with the original stir. Now, the influence caused on the greater thing will naturally be reflected on the smaller thing, which will get affected thereby in proportion to its magnitude. All things being subject to external influences are affected by the rays of the sun in accordance with their capacity. Okay, so now Babaji starts to get into more about actually our solar system and our existence as independent beings on this planet. And this starts to get really, really deep. So I'm not going to continue into this for today, because I think it's good that we just are able to understand, ponder, realize, where did we begin? What was our origin? And then determine what is our destination. See? Now, this maxim talks about that the best time for meditation is to rise before dawn. And Babaji goes on to explain that just as the particles heated up in the time of creation, which caused grossness, okay, and caused coverings, at the time of dawn, it's when the heat of this world is at its minimum. It's at its minimum. So the world is wherever we're at in the world at that time is at its point of optimum coolness or settledness. So when we meditate at that time, we are taking advantage of that point in time in nature where everything is at a cooled down, more settled condition. And so that makes it easier for our mind to settle, and it makes it easier for us to get into the meditative state, and it makes it easier for us to enter the state of samadhi. And we know that samadhi is the reaching the original mind, the original state of the mind. And we know at the end of our meditations, when we're so absorbed, we can be so absorbed that we think we're sleeping. We don't know what's happened. We can't perceive what's happening. That's not sleep. It's a state of super consciousness. Sleep is tied to subconscious mind. Meditative state is tied to superconscious mind. Why are they similar? They're similar because our physical senses don't operate there in that condition. We've withdrawn, our consciousness is withdrawn, our awareness is withdrawn from our senses and gone into this state of the soul, this deeper state. And our senses don't operate there. So this is why when we go deep in meditation, we say, oh, wow, that was so deep. And we come out, and there's a few minutes after meditation that we can kind of get a gist of, wow, this is amazing. And we come out of meditation when we've been that deep, we feel so complete. We feel whole. We feel that state of union. We feel that state of the original mind before all this multiplicity set in. You see? And it feels so good. When we come out of meditation, we don't have any questions. There's nothing to ask because we feel complete within ourselves. So this is why I've been talking about this for over a year now. Okay, because we are not just this. We are not just this body. We're not just these thoughts. We are beings of immense luminosity and lightness. That's what we really are. And what we're working towards is using these tools of heartfulness to clean away the grossness that was created even since the beginning. We have to clean that away so that we restore the ability for ourselves to abide permanently in that infinite state of lightness of being. So Does that sound good? It sounds good to me. All right. So, with that, everyone, I invite us to meditate together. And let's try to regain that lightness of being. So, I invite you all to please sit comfortably. Okay. And let's very gently close our eyes and just feel your whole body is relaxing from the tips of your toes all the way to the top of your head. Just let every muscle relax. Now let's take a slow, deep breath in. Let it go. Feel your shoulders relax and drop down. Relax your arms, palms, and fingers. And let's very gently bring our awareness to the area of the heart. And feel the heart area softening. Feel your heart becoming lighter. And let's rest on the source of this lightness, the source of light already present in the heart, and feel it's attracting you inward. That is all. Let's take a moment and observe how we're feeling now. Feel this peaceful feeling expanding within you and all around you. And now let's feel that everyone in this world is also enjoying this deep, peaceful state. Okay, whenever you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Okay, everyone. Once again, I thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to all come together and enjoy such a process and come to understand it too, which is helpful. So remember that each of us can bring a lot of change to the world, so we should think about that and, let's share what we have. And I look forward to seeing you all next week, where we will meet again. And until that time, and you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, until that time, let's stay with the heart. All the best. Love to all.